Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslak talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I want to talk about negotiating doctoral or PhD stipends in business administration programs or PhD stipends across the world, right? It doesn't matter what particular program it is. I'm only saying business administration because that's what I know. I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship. I work in a college of business. And this is something that, and that I was trained in a business school. It's something I know, but I think it's reflective of a lot of different universities going forward and, across the world. So, should you negotiate doctorate or PhD stipends going forward? I would highly persuade you not to do that. It is what it is, and it's kind of unfortunate. I know some of you probably are doing, particularly if you did an MBA and you worked for a while, you think that some of this stuff is negotiable, but it's generally not in a university system at your level. And once you become a very senior professor and you're a full professor, things become a lot more negotiable and there's a lot more play with that. But when you've started off as just getting into the PhD program is significant enough. And if you have to kind of think about how the funding actually works in these kind of things. So there's generally a couple of sources, right? So it comes from government sources at a lot of different places around the world. And they only have a certain amount that they allocate. The government will allocate a certain amount to that. But then there's also sometimes the university or the college or the business school will pitch in a certain amount of money to up the amount. And the way that they do that is they have to find it from different sources within the university. So they're taking away from other sources that they can provide, right? And generally, in a university system, at least for the short term, PhDs are generally viewed as a little bit more of a cost than they are as benefit. So here's the thing, it's a trade-off, right? So there's this actually classic sort of problem. You can look it up. It's by Jim March. It's called Exploration Exploitation. Jim March is a really famous professor out of Stanford. And the story is, in the short run, we try to maximize things that give us a tremendous amount of revenue, but then that comes at a cost as sort of exploration in the long run that can provide a tremendous amount of benefit in the long run. So what is happening, what generally, and we tend to go towards a sort of exploitive sort of short run things. That's just kind of our general tendency as human beings, as well as organizations. It's pretty well known. This paper has been cited tens of thousands of times now. And what this does, or what this suggests, is in this context with PhD students, they're going to be viewed a lot more as a cost center because there's not an immediate return that they're going to get. So the return that you get from at a business school for training PhDs is often 10, 15 years out. It's a long time, and the outcome or the return that they get is kind of amorphous. It is better reputation. It is that they are, training future professors, for example, that become, world leaders. So if XYZ school trained somebody that ends up being a full professor at one of the best schools in the world, and then as well introduces some of the most amazing sort of new ideas in the world that nobody else has sort of thought about before, then that school looks good. But that's going to take probably 10, 15, 20, 30 years out before that actually happens. So it's this trade-off that they face, right? So they tend to, a lot of administrators or a lot of people, and I'm not sort of pointing out in any particular school, our school currently doesn't do that, that's great. And a lot of people will view it as a cost center because they don't see the immediate return of PhDs, right? So there's not a lot of power there. But at the full professor level, where if you bring somebody in that's already famous, right, that have done that has created this crazy idea and stuff that everybody knows, then there's a lot of power there. You have power in the negotiating relationship, right? So at the PhD level, I would highly not recommend it. You're just going to make people upset, and there's not a lot of money to sort of move around at the PhD level. So how can you sort of think about this going forward? What can you do to increase your PhD stipend? So the first thing that I would do is just try to search very broadly in the institutions that you're looking at, right? So lots of them will have different costs of living. Some of them are much more lower than others, and they're just as good. They're going to be just as reputable in the marketplace. And then others are, some of them will pay a lot more. And the only way that you can sort of look into that is by actually applying or looking into it and getting information until you find out, like, holy cow, that one school pays that much money compared to that one school. It's not clear and not obvious. And I'm not going to sort of point out what these schools are and stuff like that. That's up to you to decide and search and go, well, dig into that kind of stuff. But, really just be rational about it and search as broadly as you can before you find the right place that fits you in terms of your financial commitments that you need. The second thing, and this is really hard, is just get national and international PhD scholarships. I know it's really hard because I was able to get a few, and thankfully, a wonderful organization that did it. It was a SSHRC grant as well as the Ontario Graduate Scholarship in Canada. Amazing institutions that did that. They're pretty hard to get, but at the same time, they're worth just applying to them and spending a little bit of time applying to them, because you never know if you're actually going to win anything like that. Now, it might change, and it depends on each country that you're from, right? Each country has these different things. They're all really different. And I would encourage you to look into it. That's all I'm saying, is you can often find different sources. And then you can also find different scholarships and stuff that are really weird, that can help you. It's a little bit harder. It's even way easier in undergrad to do that. It's easier in an MBA or a master's program. In a PhD program, it's pretty hard to find anybody that's willing to fund a PhD, because they just don't see a return in it, right? So if you're a business or if you're an organization, you're not going to see a return in anything like that, because it's the same reason, right? It's this exploration, exploitation sort of thing. It's a long run game. And by the time that those administrators are sort of done their job, that's when you become famous, right? So you're kind of stuck in between. It's like pharmaceutical development. A lot of things are like this. So a third thing, right? That's three. This is probably the best solution in terms of you worrying about your PhD stipend. Just get through your PhD program as quick as you can. And I'm not saying to trade off the sort of exploratory part of doing something novel and doing something creative and doing something that actually matters. I'm not saying that, but just focus on doing work every day. Do the best that you can do and get that done as quick as possible. You're going to get the best returns by doing that. Now, you can hurry up and get your PhD done in a couple of years, in 2 years, if you wanted to. It's just not going to be a very good PhD. The work that you have it's just not going to be there yet, and it's going to be a struggle afterwards. So that's why it's generally recommended for you to stay in a PhD program longer now, because you're producing a better piece of work as long as you're working. That's the key thing. You have to be working and developing something. If you're not, then just get out, right? There's no point in sort of sticking around and just having more fun. It's work, and you have to view it as that you're actually doing something, and you have to take pride in that going forward. And so those are the suggestions at the top of my head in terms of negotiating PhD stipends, in terms of where there could be a little bit of leeway going forward with your particular programs if you're thinking about that. So don't negotiate with the university itself. That's pretty fixed. There's not much they can do about it, and you're just going to make everybody PO'd. So you can look at what that term is. If you don't know what it is, you can look it up. I'm not going to say it. And so anyways, you can, try different institutions. They vary widely in terms of how much they cost. Look for national and international scholarships, very helpful. A lot of different ways for that. And the last one is just get it done as quick as you possibly can and do as good of a job as you possibly can. Those are the things. That's how you negotiate when you're doing your a PhD. So that's it. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and do subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, take care. Bye.